Welcome. I'm James Kennedy, member of the class of 2002 and Vice President for Development at Regis. And it's a pleasure to be with you today to celebrate Reach Appreciation Day and to have with us Prince Hunt, the Director of Graduate Support for Reach, to have a conversation about the program and his experience as a student in the program and now as an administrator at Regis and with the Reach program. Prince, this is a very special opportunity for me because I've known you since you were an 8th grader in the Reach program. Through your time at Regis, we kept in touch while you were a student at Williams, and now you're back here serving the program. So I want to say thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to lead by asking, you told me earlier that this is your 7th summer with the Reach program, the summer of 2022. What's been a highlight for you this summer?
A highlight is hard, but if I had to think about one moment, it was the closing ceremony in Scranton. And one of the things that I was doing towards the last week of the Scranton session was I was putting together appreciation days for faculty, for collegians, and for our counselors. And I didn't assign someone to appreciate me because, I don't know, I felt like that would just be, kind of defeat the purpose of it. But at the end, after all the counselors and all the departing staff had been applauded, and they got an individual moment of recognition from the entire camp, which was great to see. I was surprised by Doug. He gave me a hat that had a lot of different members of the camp who had signed it, and then I got a standing ovation and chants of Mr. Hunt from the kids, which that was an awesome moment. I had done that chanting when my counselors and collegians had departed years ago. So to be on the other side of that was a really surreal moment.
What do you think inspired the students to be so grateful to you and to the other adults running the program?
I don't know. I think every administrator has their own flavor, their own vibe that they give off. With me, I really lead a lot of my advising, my conversations, my intimate moments with them with the fact that I am a Reach grad and that I've been on this journey. So hopefully that makes them more willing to listen to what I have to say. And I have found that they are very receptive to that. They are very receptive to the fact that he's been on this journey and he's here to tell us about what went well and what didn't go so well so that we can better learn what to do on our own journeys.
Picking up on that a little bit, I'd love to ask you, to go back in your memory and think about those days when you were a Reach student yourself and share with us some of your best memories, either from that first summer or the following summers. So can we ask you to tell a story about that?
Yeah, so specifically with the first summer, I had never been on a college campus before, and I think of 2 moments particularly. The first was when we arrived at the dorms, at the University of Scranton dorms. I don't even think I really knew the concept of what a dorm was supposed to accomplish. But there was just so much space, and I was just like, whoa, this is what college is like. Like, this is the experience that I'll have many, many years down the line. It was really exciting. And it also was exciting because it was a lens into what I thought at the time was the highest form of academia. Like I just finished a 5th grade. I knew that high school lurked on the horizon, but even then I was like, I don't know that much about high school. So college was like a whole nother world. And then, so that's one moment in the dorms. And then also, when I got to the Naples, the dining center in Scranton for the first time, I was like, oh, so everyone in college lives like kings. Like it's all you can eat. There are all these different options. I just remember just so much exhilaration and excitement on that first day. And then this is something that I've talked about with other Reach grads, that it's actually pretty hard to pinpoint specific moments, since you wake up at 7, you end your nighttime reflection at 9:45. There's just a lot that happens each day. There's a lot of stimuli. But one thing that I think about, or that I come back to, is just like those late night conversations with my roommates, or just like downtime in the dorms after we had gotten back. from dinner, study hall, and our evening activity. And we had about 45 minutes to either shower if you had nighttime showers, or just kind of like unwind and relax in the hallway while your collegian got nighttime reflection ready. And that was particularly important for me because growing up, I was the only kid in the house. Like for my really early life, it was me, my mom, and my grandma. But then after my grandma passed away around third, fourth grade, it was just me and mom. And mom worked long hours so that she could send me, to Catholic middle school. And so on the one hand, that made me very independent, but I spent a lot of time, like after the school day, like kind of by myself. And so to be with kids my age for pretty much every moment of every day, I think in Reach is when I realized that like I'm an extrovert and I get my energy from other people, and I like that it's that way. And then secondly, Reach was the first time that I had been around, truly like-minded students my age. Where I went to middle school was a good middle school. Mount Carmel Holy Rosary is a great middle school, but I had never been challenged in the way that I had been in Reach, especially during that first summer. And it was cool to be surrounded by kids who had an equal desire to learn, an equal desire. I mean, we all had decided to do school in the summer, which I think says a lot about the kind of population that Reach aims to attract.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that dynamic of being in a group for the first time in your life with other young men, other boys really, students that are eager to learn? How did that impact you? What was that like? Did it feel competitive? Was there camaraderie? Give us a little bit more detail on that.
So I think initially, and by initially I really restrict it to like the first week or so, week, 2 weeks, there was definitely some competitiveness. All of us from our respective middle schools, and some guys came from the same middle school, but we were all pretty much the top of our classes. And so then to get into the Reach context where some of us were struggling for the first time ever, that definitely did foster a sense of, okay, I want to show everyone why I deserve to be here. Because as you know, that first summer is your candidate summer, and you're not technically in the program until after the closing ceremony, which for our guys will be this upcoming Friday. Just insane to think about. But there was definitely that competitiveness, at least initially. Once the advisement culture like really started to develop, it shifted towards camaraderie. And once that shift happened, like about 2 weeks into our 6-week session, then it was camaraderie like until the end. We were like, how can we? And the faculty, the staff, they definitely they definitely fostered that. So it became, how can we help each other through these challenges that none of us have ever had, rather than, how can I show that I can conquer this challenge.
I want to go back to your mom for a second. I remember from being a Reach administrator myself, and I'm sure you've had this experience, you work very closely with the parents as well, right, as members of the team that's forming these young men. What did your mom think about sending you off to Scranton as a young kid, and what were some of her reflections on Reach?
So I think what was key to my Reach nomination and eventual acceptance process was the fact that my principal, Suzanne Kaczynski, had nominated many Reach students before me, to be Reach students before me. And so she was my mom placed a lot of faith in Ms. Kaczynski's knowledge of the program and willingness to work with me. And Ms. Kaczynski really guided us through the application process and that first summer. A lot of the spirit of like how my mom lived her life at that time, which I'll forever be grateful for, but she was willing to make whatever sacrifice it took to give me a chance to have an education that she wasn't privileged enough to have. So I think coupled with like the independence that like I had already fostered when I was young, my mom she didn't really know like what like going off to Scranton would be like, but she trusted me. And I didn't realize back then, but she was not only trusting like that version of me, but she was trusting the future version of me, and what Reach would do to make me into, the young man that I would eventually become. So a lot of trust. Obviously, there are nerves. I think any parent sending, their child away for the first time, for an extended time, that's gonna be a little nerve wracking. But she believed in Ms. Kaczynski. She believed in Mr. Austin. She believed in the program, and she believed in me. She knew that when I came back, that I will have come back trying my best, like with whatever difficulties were in front of me.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I have fond memories myself and many conversations with parents about how their students came back from camp as different people, right? Truly changed. Everything from small things like waking up early and making their own bed to bigger things like being more motivated in their schoolwork, right? And having a network of friends and colleagues to really lean on. So thanks for telling me a little bit about that. All right, I want to ask you one more question about this summer and then maybe move on to a different topic. Over the course of this summer, have there been any students that have reminded you, of your younger self?
Yes, definitely. The first student that comes to mind, he's a fourth year. He'll be going to Fordham Prep next year, and he's one of my advisees. But my student Naval, he is so talented at finding the line between being silly in class but not like pushing it overboard. And it's hard. I try not to react, but sometimes like he'll just like make a comment, and it's not disruptive. So it's okay. But like I'll have to like catch myself from like smirking or from like laughing, because like I made that comment however many years ago.
You did.
However many years ago that was. And sometimes I'll just have to be like, ball. And I'll take a brief stop in class. But yeah, he's the first one that comes to mind. And then I guess to add on to that, he also like, when I'm like, Naval, like it's time to be serious, he's like, okay, like I understand. So I really appreciate that about him. Like he brings a joy and a levity to the class that is important, which is like very signaturely Reach, that joy in learning. But then when it's time to really focus and zone in, he's very receptive to me and really any adult that tells him when that time is.
That's also how you were as a student. Not to embarrass you in front of the crowd here, but no, that's absolutely true. And I think our students now are so lucky to have role models like yourself, right? And people that, as you said earlier, have walked that journey and know what it's about, right? And can see that recognition. In the same way that you can see it in Naval, I firmly believe that he can see it in you in a much more abstract way. So I think that's really a gift for him and for all the guys.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so after Mount Carmel Holy Rosary and Reach, you were one of the members of your class to be admitted to Regis, and you landed here as a freshman, and I'm curious to know what that transition was like and how you leaned on the lessons learned at Reach to succeed here.
Yeah, so when I got into Regis, I was over the moon. Like I was beyond excited. And for those first couple of days, like, it felt like I had accomplished what I had been working to for 3 years. And that was very rewarding. But then it quickly transitioned into a feeling of, okay, like now it's time to get prepared. Throughout the entirety of my Reach career, faculty and administration did a very good job of letting me know that this is a transformative program. One of our goals is for you to go to a high school that deserves what you have to offer. But going to such a high school is going to be extremely difficult. And there are going to be difficulties socially, academically, personally that are going to emerge and that you need to be ready for. So the first thing I want to talk about is that just the familiarity did a lot to mitigate the overwhelmingness of such a transition. I guess like at its most basic, I was going from a predominantly Black and Hispanic middle school to a predominantly white institution. That was extremely challenging. So I knew that this, I at least knew what to expect. Like I knew to expect this, which was key. I had been in the Regis building before. I knew how to maneuver Regis before I even stepped foot my first day as a student. that was another key thing that just helped build familiarity with Regis, and thus comfortability. And comfortability is like one of the things that I really stress to the guys, like regardless of if it's Xavier, Fordham, Regis, Loyola, like you got to do things early on to make yourselves feel comfortable at the school. Like we've done some things for you, but you know that's really your responsibility. And then last on the familiarity, I knew people already. Mm-hmm. I had you know a third of my Reach class going to Regis with me, and that did a lot. Like the first day, we all sat together at lunch. We had been through our Reach journeys together, and we were starting this Regis journey together. And it just felt good to know that I already have like best friends. And you know, for me, that didn't like make me any less open to making new friends. Some of my non-Reach Regis friends are still some of my best friends to this day. But it helped. It helped, and it's things like that you know when you're a kid, when you're you know a student in a new place that you don't really think about. So on the one hand, just having that familiarity and thus comfortability, I think was like key to allowing me to transition well to Regis. I think the second thing in terms of like so that's like more of the social side. In terms of like you know the academic side, I had gotten high school level work in Reach. And my success in Reach definitely made me confident in my ability to do my best. And maybe I wouldn't be the top of a class, because being the top of a Regis class is, that's quite a feat. But I at least knew that I have done well, like with similar work when I was in middle school. There's no reason why if I put in like all the effort that I can't do the work at this level. And you know, as a Regis grad yourself, I know that you're very familiar with the moments of doubt that enter every Regian's mind at some point. For some of us, at some point, many points each year, you know, staying up late night for a test, thinking, can I do this? Should I just go to sleep? You know, writing that really hard English paper or a research paper, your first research paper. Just those feelings of, this is the hardest thing I've done up until now, at least intellectually. Every Regian has it. But having gone through a junior version of that in Reach, obviously not to the same extent, but there were times in Reach when I was like, wow, this is really, really hard. I have not been challenged like this. So to have gone through a version of that, you know, to preface my Regis experience, that was key. Like I had already learned that it's more important how you respond to your challenges than to let challenges and even failures define you. And it's hard to really distill like specific things that I took for Reach, but that is definitely one. That is definitely one.
That's a fantastic reflection and totally makes sense. And it prompts me to ask you, Prince, when you onboarded at Regis, your role didn't exist, right? We didn't have a director of graduate support. Certainly you had support, right, from Mr. Austin, other guys on the Reach team, people at Regis, but now students have the benefit of your support as they make that transition. And when students come to you in those moments of doubt, right, either they're saying that directly or you can sense that about them, how do you coach them? What do you tell them when they come to you in those moments when they're really feeling like, okay, I'm struggling here?
Yeah, well, I remind them that they're human, that it is okay to struggle, and that it would be more abnormal for you to have no failures or struggles than the other case. Depending on the student, like I'll talk about my own experiences. I love talking about my struggles at Regis because I feel like it humanizes the experience for them. At least like when I remember when I first accepted the role and I was like meeting with my students for the first time, they were like, oh, like you went to Regis, like you were a Reach grad, like I don't know, they had this image of me that like, you know, I had like been perfect throughout Reach and perfect throughout Regis to be able to return. And I love telling them like, no, like there were times in Reach and at Regis where I struggled. There were times when, you know, I had to go to office hours and get help. It is natural to struggle in life. and so that's kind of like the first thing that I lead off with, and then the second thing that I try to do is try to ground them in the journey. I'm like, even if it's hard now, you've done hard things in the past. You know that this is only a point, that this is transitory, and you know that like me, the rest of the Reach staff, and your families, that we're on this journey with you. So like even if it's hard right now, that's okay. It's not that you shouldn't feel conflicted or that you're struggling. Feel that. It's okay to feel that. But feel that and know that, Reach and your family, we're gonna get you through this. And it's a team effort. You're not in this alone. I say that a lot. You're not in this alone. You don't even have a choice. Like, we're gonna support you no matter what. You don't get to do this alone, because we care about you. So stay open-minded. Listen, sit in these feelings of discomfort, and remember these feelings when it does get right, so that you can have a smile on your face, and then for future moments that, hey, I've been here, and I've done that.
I think that's phenomenal coaching for our students, and what I think of on an even broader plane is our care for the whole person, right? Your response is deeply Ignatian, Prince, in so many ways, right? You're saying that students are cared for holistically, that our emotions tell us something important about ourselves and we shouldn't turn away from them. I think that's a very Ignatian ideal, and I just think that our students are really lucky to have that kind of support, and I'm glad that we as a school have been able to add your role over the past few years and really make sure that our students feel that support, not only through middle school, but through high school and into college. So on that first day at the University of Scranton, could you have imagined that you would go on to Williams College in Williamstown, Massachusetts, and become a leader on the rugby team and write an honors thesis? Was that in your window, or maybe you can look back from your time at Williams and share a little bit with us about what that was like and how your formation at Reach and Regis prepped you for that?
Yeah, I did not. I could not have envisioned such a thing. The one thing about Williams that I knew is that I knew that Williams was going to be completely different than any setting I had lived in previously, and one of the main reasons that I chose Williams was because I knew that I was going to return to New York City in some capacity. I mean, I knew I was going to come back right away. And so in the spirit of the First Reach principle, I figured, why not truly be open to growth, and let's go to the rural mountains and let's get literally the exact opposite experience as New York City. Because, I mean, at that point, I was pretty staunch in my belief that change and difference prompts growth. And I was looking to continue to grow. Like, I had grown a tremendous amount over the course of my 4 years at Regis. And I viewed college as a vehicle to continue that growth. I mean, you grow throughout all of life. But I was like, these are 4, distinct years. Let me go somewhere that's going to challenge me. And not having a bodega and only having one main street, that definitely took some getting used to.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think that openness to growth, is core to the program and core to what we're about. And
back to, I mean, the other thing that appealed to me about Williams was, the small class size and the ability to form intimate relationships with your professors. I didn't realize then that I would still talk to professors from Williams, but I heard from the Reach Regis guys and the grade above. A few of them went to Williams, and they told me like someone like you needs to apply here. It's small enough where you can get like that intimacy like in class and with your professors, and that was something that I loved about both Reach and Regis. It was key. That's something that was key to both of my experience prior to Williams. So it just made sense to at least like on the academic side of things to follow in that tradition and go to a small school like that.
Have you started teaching the young Reach guys rugby?
No, not yet. I tried to get a rugby ball. I tried to order a rugby ball before we left for Scranton, but it actually came after we'd gotten here. But that's definitely something that we'll work on next summer.
I ask because Mr. Eichmann shamelessly recruits for his ultimate frisbee team throughout the whole camp, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
He does.
yeah. We can all see through that strategy, a winning strategy.
Yeah,
but,
no, very much so.
A clear move on his part. So as you went through college, I know that you were at Uncommon Schools before you came back to us here at Regis and Reach. Tell us a little bit about your discernment that you wanted to go into education.
So, my first spark for education was actually when I was your TA. So that was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Being a counselor for Reach, first of all, to take a step back, I remember when I got my counselor acceptance. I just felt so honored to be able to give back, even if it's what I thought was a very small way. I now know that counselors are, every part is key, and counselors are definitely key to the Reach Summer experience. But I was like, I'm only a counselor, I'm not a collegian, I'm not a teacher, I'm not an administrator, but I just remember feeling so lucky to be able to give back to a program that had served me most. When I signed my contract to be a counselor, and then was informed that I was going to be your TA for English, I was thrilled. I was thrilled. But even then, I did not envision how impactful of an experience that would be. You very much so viewed me as a co-teacher. You gave me space to step in and lead portions of the class. And one memory comes back, but it was our last day of our Reach at Regis session. And you just took some time to appreciate me. And you gave a few words, and then a few of the students said something, like I think they said like some of them said their favorite things about me. And after that class, I actually had to step into the hallway because I was tearing up. And to feel so appreciated and to be, one small piece of the experience of these students who I once was. It was a lot. It was a lot of weight in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And it just hit me. And it was in that hallway when I was kind of collecting myself, where I was I could see myself doing this. And so when I got to Williams, there's no education major because it's a small liberal arts school. But I majored, philosophy was one of I double majored in philosophy and economics. And some of the philosophy that was particularly interesting to me was the philosophy of education. That wasn't my specialization, but I did take a few classes on that. And though there was no education-based classes, I didn't realize then, but I was starting to form I was starting to concretize what I think education ought to be about. And I just remember getting a reading. And so many times, the good things about education that I was reading, I was Reach does that, Regis does that. So I think it subconsciously continued to foster without me making any active moves towards education. And then by the time I was a senior, I was I'm going to education no matter what. I don't really know in what capacity or how to break in. And I found an Uncommon job on my school's portal. I came in, interviewed, and I got the job. And well, actually, that was the process for I did a fellowship the summer of my junior year, and that was a good experience. And after that fellowship, the school that I worked at, they offered me a full-time role to return. So I kind of just saw it on the portal, threw a flyer out there, and there I was.
Thanks for telling that story. I'm really glad to know that your time at Reach and your time as a counselor and teaching assistant in my class, that had an impact on you. And you absolutely deserved our appreciation. At a very basic level, you graded every quiz, right? So there was a big thanks just for that. And then I very vividly remember at the end of our time at Scranton, you leading a class on The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, the novel we had read. And I remember standing at the back of the classroom and looking at you. You were probably 16 years old, 17 maybe,
17,
right? And thinking, I wonder where Prince is going. Like, I wonder if he is ever going to think about being a teacher, right? And here you are. So that gives me a lot of joy. And for those that don't know, Uncommon Schools is a charter network here in the city. Are they national? I don't know if they're just here. If they have abroad.
They have sites in Boston and in upstate New York.
Got it. Yeah. So you were there for a year.
A year and a
year and a bit.
Yeah, a year and a month before Doug stole me away.
And that's a perfect transition actually, because I wanted to ask you to say a little bit about what it's been like to come back to Regis in this role, to talk a little bit about the day-to-day of being Director of Graduate Support, as it is a relatively new role for the school. So we'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah.
You're at the end of year one.
I am. To be back at Regis, like on one level, is like, I view this place as a home of mine, and so many fond memories from my time in this building. But on a second level, to be specifically working for Reach, like it's all that I can ask for in my life right now. It's hard to overstate. I think it's impossible to overstate just how much my 7 years with Reach and Regis have meant to me, developmentally and shaping me into the man that I am today. I don't know if I'll ever be able to pay back both institutions for everything that they've given me, but I'm gonna do my hardest to try. My role, the thing about graduate support that was a bit tricky navigating this first year is that the students didn't really know me. So the sophomores in high school, I was their collegian my freshman summer at Williams. So they kind of knew me, but they were also very young. I was a candidate collegian at Fordham, so they were 10, 11. So they were like, you look familiar, and like, I'm pretty sure you were my collegian, but I don't remember you. So a lot of when I first took the role was just like being my explicit goal was to be visible. And I think we even talked about this over lunch one time, but to be visible and for people to feel comfortable coming to you for help, for support, they need to know you. So one of the first things that I did when I got the role was visit each of our core, the Reach core partner high schools. Visited Xavier, visited Loyola, visited Fordham, visited Cristo Rey, and just kind of did like an introductory, like, hey, like I'm Mr. Hunt, I'm a Reach grad, which they love. They love that. I'm a Regis grad. This is what graduate support. This is what this role is supposed to do. I'm here to serve, as a secondary advisor, to your advisor, to your guidance counselor. I'm here like as a representative of Reach. I want you to still feel connected to Reach. So here's some events that we're going to do throughout the year, so that you can come back and feel that cohort pride. I'm also here to support you financially. If there's a cost with joining a club or participating in a trip, Reach has your back. We're going to do our best to get in contact with, the financial assistance offices at your respective schools, because one thing I love about our partner high schools is that they really embrace the meaning of the word partnership, in the sense that, I have contacts at each of the high school that I can email. I literally just did this last week. A student, a Xavier student, he's going to play football. He was struggling like with the cost of, there's like a Spirit Pack fee. And he was like, yeah, I can't afford this, but like I really want to be able to like rep Xavier football. So I was like, yeah, let me shoot a line. Got in touch with the athletic director, and we were able to get that student his gear covered. So awesome. Things like that, I tell then I didn't have the anecdotes, so I only had hypotheticals. So it'll be nice to go into year two and like at these same like introductory pizza parties. Like these are some examples of like things I can do. Each of the core high schools understands that as a Reach student, you might be, emphasis on the word might, but you might be coming in with some differences than the standard population at the high school. So if one of those is financial, being a Regian, being a Xavier student, being a Loyola student, finances should not preclude you from the full experience being at one of our core partner high school. So that's why we're in such deep conversation with each other. So that's like kind of like one phase of it. Or at least last year, like going to these schools and like just showing face, giving this presentation, buying the kids some pizza, and then from that, that's like the launch pad. And then from that, like if there are kids that are particularly struggling, then like I'll kind of zone in on those kids. The thing with graduate support is that it's an ever expanding network. There are Reach graduates that are older than me, and so I think very intuitively, I give the most support towards the Reach graduates who are freshest, who have just started high school, who have just made this very big transition into a new world. And then if there's a sophomore, if there's a junior, if there's a senior struggling, then obviously like I will get clued into those cases as well. But kind of how I conceptualize is that freshmen, because they are in such a new context,
Sure.
I try to overly support, and then seniors, because they're about to transition and go from one world where they got really comfortable to a whole new world. Dude, they're doing the same thing, just they're a few years older. And I work a lot with the seniors in high school. We have a few partner programs that just help get some extra set of eyes on college lists, financial aid applications. I run a few sessions, and these partner programs help me run a few sessions. But I do a session on, this is what applying to financial aid looks like. Like, I know it seems very scary and very daunting, and a lot is on the line because college is expensive, but I got your back. We can do this together. And like even this past year, I was fortunate enough to get close with a few guys who were like, Mr. Hunt, like, can we get on Zoom and can like we do my FAFSA together? And like that just brings the biggest smile on my face because like, yeah, of course, I'm so happy to. And so with college, the financial aid specifically like is a big one. If in ordinary times I would do college visits and like bring cohorts of guys like just to see different schools, but with COVID that was not really feasible, and so I helped them with revising lists, financial aid applications, with their common application if they if they want, and then also helping them get access to scholarship opportunities. That is going to just make that financial burden a little bit easier.
That's such important support for our students, for the guys preparing for college, for the guys coming into 9th grade and going through their high school time. They're really lucky to have you as an advocate, as a guide, as a coach. I'm just really impressed with all that you and the team have built in terms of support for the students. And my next question is really about growth. The REACH program has been through a tremendous period of growth since 2016. We've doubled the number of students that we serve. We've added your role coming out of our strategic planning process. As you think about what's next for the graduate support program, tell us one thing that's on your wish list or that you dream about, that you wish you could do or that you'd like to build out.
Yeah, so a lot of my day-to-day is graduate support, setting up events, sending out internship opportunities to the high school guys, internship and scholarship opportunities to the high school guys, job opportunities to the college guys, touching base, various one-on-one advising meetings. But that is all on top of I kind of view it as like my like if that's part A, this is like part B. My role as a full-time Reach administrator, like making sure that the Saturdays run well, preparing for the summer session, which is really the heart of the REACH program. One thing that took up a lot of my time in the months preceding this summer was hiring counselors, hiring collegians. And we're only a 5-person team, and 2 of our team split their time between working as administrators for us, but also teaching like classes at Regis. And so sometimes there's not enough time for me to allocate as much energy as I want to events. a lot of graduate support in terms of like building cohort pride for a given Reach class, like is event planning. And it can just sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day to like plan as many events as I want, while still making sure that the Saturdays are running helping that the Saturdays are running smoothly, that we are in tip-top shape for the summer. And so I guess in terms of like a wish list, I can't ask for more time in the day because that's not feasible. But if we were a bigger team and some of that administrative load was off of me, I would visit our core partner high schools more often. I was able to get there. I was able to get to each school a few times, but I hypothetically want to go once every 2 months, and really be visible. Another difficulty of this job is that my office is based at Regis. And one thing I'm very conscious of, as a Regis Reach grad, is that the Regis Reach grads see me because we share the same building. But the Xavier, Fordham, Loyola, Cristo Rey, Malloy guys, they don't see me as often. I have to make an active effort to go to those schools for them to see them, or to host an event for them to see me. So one thing that I really want to do, to kind of reframe your question, is I feel like I've done a good job being visible at Regis and being visible just in general as the new director of graduate support, but I want to be visible in the other schools, in our other core partner high schools, having more events, like having like a basketball tournament at Xavier in March, because why not? Well, we know why not, because I have to get ready for the summer. But in a perfect world, just having more time to invite the students back into spaces like with their former Reach classmates.
The Reach team, I know from observing you guys, from being a member of it years ago, is a lean, mean machine, right? The team achieves quite a lot with a relatively small footprint, and I really admire that and appreciate it. And I know how busy it is, right, and how stressful it can be. And I think your ambition to make sure that you're supporting all of the Reach graduates around the city at our partner schools is a really noble one. It's a challenge, right? There's a physical piece to it that's tough, but I think that's a great goal. Prince, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Again, it gives me great pride to see someone that I've known for a long time in this role, and I can't emphasize enough how lucky we are at Regis to work with you, and how lucky our students are most of all to work with you. I want to close with one final question, which is, for the folks in the audience, what's one thing that they probably don't know about Reach that you think they should know about the program?
Okay, so one thing that you might not know is that, or one thing that I want to really draw attention to, is the fact that I think it's easier to see the academic portion of the Reach mission, like with academic improvement data, any one of your various statistics, what percentage of a Reach class goes to a core partner high school, how much scholarship money does a Reach class have. It's very quantifiable, the academic success of the Reach program, and it's impressive. It's impressive and mighty, like what our students are able to do. But one thing that I feel like can sometimes get lost is that we are not just a high school prep program. It's great that our students go to these phenomenal high schools and then phenomenal colleges and then do great work in the world. But that's kind of a byproduct. First and foremost, we are a leadership developmental program that is based on Ignatian values. And so for the audience, our 5 Reach principles are to be more open to growth, to be intellectually proficient, to be more loving, to be more faithful, and to be a servant to one's community. And these 5 principles are the foundation on which everything regarding the Reach program is based on. It informs our curricula. It informs how we fill the time in between classes, because as you know, like it's not just classes in our summer session, but we do have a leadership developmental program. we pray, we reflect, and we try to build students that are introspective, because that's at least in my, that's central to Ignatian spirituality. And above everything, like, we are an Ignatian Catholic program. And so again, like the academics, you know, we do a lot of good work to challenge our students in ways that they haven't been challenged, so that they can go to great schools like Regis. But we're also trying to make them men for others. We are also, you know, principally interested in developing them as a person. And sometimes the best work that we do is with changing someone's mindset. And that's not always captured in the academic context. If we can make a student, to talk about our first principle, if we can make a student more open to growth and, you know, more willing to take risks in the classroom, and try things out in general, that doesn't always show up as a number, as a grade, like, you know, in their respective middle school. But that is the kind of spirit that is going to be, they're going to carry through the rest of their lives. I feel, I've done a lot of reflecting in this year that I've been back at Reach and Regis, and it's something that you don't realize it in the moment, but there have been, like, throughout my time, like, leaving Regis, like, up until now, I've, like, like, what I envision as, like, the best version of myself is still aligned, like, with those principles, like, is still aligned, you know, with being open to growth, like, in whatever situation I'm in, with, you know, trying to lead with love, rather than judgment or, you know, something else. And so we do a lot. One of my favorite parts of the Reach Day in our summer session is our nighttime reflection, where our collegian, which is a college-age counselor, he leads the group in kind of like a wind-down reflection that is very Ignatian. It begins with prayer, and then in the middle, it's centered on reflecting throughout your day, you know, where you were the best version of yourself, and giving students a moment to be proud of that. But also acknowledgement of where was a time in the day where you were not your best self, where you could have been your best self, but circumstances that be, or you chose not to be. Don't run away from that negative experience. Sit in it, reflect on it, and then use that experience to do better tomorrow. And it, you know, we're not saying do better for the rest of your life, but do better tomorrow. And, you know, take one step at a time, but really reflect and really be present. Try to be present throughout each day, and then, you know, ending in prayer. And, like, that's something that even as I was, like, verbalizing that, you really have to see it. You really have to, like, be part of it to fully see how impactful that is for our students. But I hope I've done a decent job of trying to, like, paint that visual picture of ending every day in reflection on what you've done, and really taking accountability and responsibility. You know, even though you are only in your, you know, 5th grade summer, you have gifts. You have gifts that God has given you, that you almost have a responsibility to cultivate. So what are you going to do to cultivate that?
Amen to that. And in terms of, you know, your own work, you and the other Reach alums who give back to the program are exemplars of all those principles. And I admire you for that. And I think in this last answer, you've shed light on a really important aspect of the program. So thank you for that and for this great chat.
Yeah, James, it's been a pleasure.
Indeed. Thanks, Prince. Thank you all.